From Isaac, let's also cross to SABC News international editor Sophie Mokoena. She is also going to be giving us an update on the arrest of Thabo Bester as well as two others. Sophie, good afternoon. I understand that you are obviously from Rwanda. You're in East Africa. We obviously have the news confirmed that Thabo Bester, Dr Nandipha, as well as a Mozambican national, have now been arrested. Perhaps as we look at how quickly this transpired, do you think that the political relations in South Africa and Tanzania had anything to do with the quick turnaround?
Well, I think so, because you'd recall that the president of Tanzania, President Suluhu Hassan, was in the country recently, and both leaders, President Cyril Ramaphosa and President Hassan, pointed out that the relationship between South Africa and Tanzania are quite strong, and also that working together, they will continue. You know that the relationship dates back to struggle years when many ANC members were in exile in Tanzania. You know that the former president of Tanzania, Mwalimu Nyerere, was a very close friend of former president of ANC, O.R. Tambo. And you know that there are lots and lots of projects that are being handled that side. Those projects were launched by the South African government post-1994 as part of saying thank you to the Tanzanians. And therefore, I suspect that it was easy for South Africa to handle this one because Tanzania is a friend, but two, Tanzania is part of the SADC region. And you know that the Mutual Assistance Act it binds all the SADC member countries, and that act is the one that is linked to the extradition treaties. Some countries don't comply. They take their time protecting their citizens in the same way Malawi has done with Bushiri. But other countries who really want to stamp out corruption and maladministration, crime, don't hesitate to cooperate. And the fact that, as the minister pointed out, they had also informed Interpol. So the red alert was there, and therefore countries were acting, particularly those who are also members of Interpol. And I think this one, it's not going to be as difficult as the Gupta's case in the United Arab Emirates and also Bushiri in Malawi. But we'll see, as the minister has pointed out, that officials will leave tomorrow from O.R. Tambo International Airport to Dar es Salaam. We are told that it looks like they were at some point in time, a few days ago, in Dar es Salaam, and they were traveling to Arusha, another city, and using a border that can link them to Kenya. And we don't know whether they were destined for Kenya or other countries in East Africa or abroad, because you know that there are challenges, particularly in that route of the insurgents. And when you look at the character that accompanied them, this Mozambique national, I think it is going to be a big story in terms of identifying who this person is and how did they manage to get so many traveling documents from different countries. But when they entered Tanzania, they didn't even stamp their travel documents because clearly they were sneaking in the country. And the question is, was it by boat, by road? If it was by road, who was involved, even at the border between Mozambique and Tanzania?
Absolutely. We also have questions about, you know, how rife the cases are in Tanzania, where, you know, Tanzania is used as an exit point. And we were just speaking to Isaac earlier on, and he was explaining that it does tend to happen. And the question is, given the quick turnaround of the time that it took to apprehend the three of them, I mean, in South Africa, it was just last month that the story gained traction. And, you know, really is when things started unfolding. What spotlight's also being shone there? What questions are being raised about South Africa and its intel as well as police services?
It speaks to the law enforcement agencies in Tanzania. They don't take chances. You know that they are always vulnerable because of the problem of the insurgents. And therefore, the borders, you may at times sneak in, but I can tell you, based on the intelligence services in that country, you will be apprehended. And therefore, it speaks to how Tanzania, in relation to issues of security, they can act quickly. For South Africa, it looks like we are continuing to be relaxed because clearly they were in South Africa. They had to leave South Africa. Clearly, they went to Mozambique. They did cross the border. Who allowed them? Who gave them permission to cross the border? How did they do it? And therefore, the spotlight should not only be on the Department of Justice, the Department of Home Affairs and the police. They got a tip-off that there are reports that they are heading to the border where they will be crossing to Mozambique. These things were there on social media. Was the investigation done? In terms of our borders, when the red alert was issued by the Department of Justice, all the borders, did it trigger perhaps vigilance in all our borders? What happened? So I think another department that must answer today is the Department of Home Affairs. And so it's a chain. When you talk about criminal justice system and security cluster, you are not only talking about the Department of Justice at the end and the police who are doing investigation, even the intelligence services. What did they do? Because when you have this kind of information, you have to do a follow-up. I think, yes, we are able to say if he is indeed the guy they are looking for, he has been apprehended by our neighbors. But again, it doesn't exonerate South African security system and the whole criminal cluster in terms of how this matter was handled. But thanks to Tanzania, because in terms of their systems, they do work, they were able to track him down.
And this now shines a spotlight on the importance of extradition treaties and how important they are in terms of agreement. And also, now that, you know, the 3 that have been arrested are going to be deported back to South Africa, how confident are you that now that Thabo at least has been rearrested, that he's actually going to remain in prison and that this will not happen again?
Well, I think it is very important for countries to know that these agreements are very important if you want to clamp down on crime, on illicit financial outflows, on drugs, on the challenges of insurgents. If you don't have these agreements, then it will be difficult for you to act. And therefore, I think it is good that South Africa, with her neighbors, they do have good relationship and all these different agreements. And therefore, where we are found wanting, our neighbors are willing to assist. The same with our neighbors. If they want us to assist them, South Africa does that many times. Many times you find that foreign citizens or citizens of other countries who have committed crime in their respective countries come to South Africa. And South Africa does cooperate with other countries to apprehend them. And therefore, I think it speaks to this notion that South Africa is an island. It's a misnomer.
Sophie Mokoena, thank you for that update. Sophie Mokoena, SABC News International editor, is live from Rwanda, covering the East Bloc. Again, just on the back of the news that had been announced by the various ministers in attendance at the press briefing that occurred at 2 o'clock today, where we understand convicted Facebook rapist Thabo Bester has been rearrested in Tanzania alongside 2 others, including Dr Nandipha Magudumana and a Mozambican foreign national.